we go.
You're fine. My mission, I am
Making sure
devoted to
everyone's paying
empowering.
attention. Sorry.
You're fine. I am devoted to empowering coaches and course creators and entrepreneurs to harness the power of stories to build relationships with your audience, because the piece that's missing in our crazy world right now is that there is AI and there are tons and tons and tons of marketing messages that are thrown at us every single day. But somewhere we forgot that people buy from people. And so really it's about building relationships and showing people that you do care about them, that it's not just about the dollar. And so my vision is that you don't have to choose between your family and your career. We're working on building that balance so that we can create the impact that we were meant to create. So first, I always have a little mindset piece at the front. And today I figured we should start with my favorite quote because it's a great place to start. But whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. And Henry Ford. And the reason is 80 to 90% of being an entrepreneur is mindset. If you think you can do it, you will find a way to do it. If you think you can't do it, Lord knows that there will be every possible obstacle that will pop up, and we got to work through it, and that's okay. But copy's the same way. If you think you can't write copy, you will write the worst copy in the world. If you think you can write it and you approach it with I'm going to take messy action here, and once I get the ideas out, then we can fix it, then you're golden. So our mini lesson today, we're going to talk about the Quest framework. Here's my little here we go. Quest framework. We're going to begin with the end in mind. I'm going to turn off the chat because I can't see my own stuff. Begin with the end in mind. You got to know what your vision is. What are you trying to accomplish? Because your vision is your North Star. With everything that you do with writing, with everything you do with being an entrepreneur, if you start with the end in mind and you reverse engineer it, you are highly likely to hit your target or exceed your target. If you are just like, I'll get there when I get there, then you are driving down the road without a GPS and you are probably going to end up in a lake. Okay, it's just what's going to happen where we live. So always start with your vision. What are we trying to accomplish? Why are we trying to accomplish it? And now, how do we get there? How do we get where we're trying to be? Because your vision at the end of the day is your North Star. So the Quest framework is a framework that it's about 20-ish years old. And it's the idea that you're taking your readers on a quest. You're giving them a journey from them recognizing that they have a need or they have a problem to recognizing that they have to take action on that need. Quest stands for qualify, understand, educate, stimulate, which you don't love that word, but whatever, and transition. So let's talk about them. Identify. You got to know, qualify. You got to identify your audience. You have to know who you're talking to, because if you're talking to everyone, you're talking to no one. Because people, if you don't tell them who you're talking to, they will not, they won't identify themselves. But if you say, hey, I'm talking to coaches, I'm talking to course creators, I'm talking to copywriters, maybe I'm talking to marketers, they begin to go, well, I might not be a marketer, but tell me more. Maybe I don't fully identify with that, but you have my attention. This is our market research. You have to know who you're talking to, because if you don't really know how they're talking about their problem. You don't really know what the problem is. You could be the perfect solution for them. But if you're talking about it in a different way that they're talking about it, that disconnect exists and they won't recognize you as the potential solution for their problem. The application here. Yeah.
Kelly, quick question. So as we're going through this framework, this Quest framework, this is step one. Is this something that you're following along in the way you would write, or is this kind of just the steps you would go through as you're preparing to write?
This is really how you're going through to prepare to write, because when I actually have a framework that if we have time, I'm going to share with you guys. It's called the Write framework, and it's going to tell you these are the pieces that you need in all of your writing to get them to convert. This is what we're looking for. This is really more the step of we're planning to write. How are we taking people through that journey? I'm sorry, I put my hand up because,
It's okay. Those
my
fun
Zoom
gestures, no worries. No, that was just helpful. So what we're doing is it's this kind of a framework of all the pieces we should be prepared and have ready before we start to write our piece.
Right. Right, because
Awesome.
this is really thinking about how are we going to take them through that journey. If
Love it.
we are focusing on storytelling and focusing on how do we build this relationship through storytelling, these are the pieces we want to make sure that we include, because if we do, it's going to be a lot more meaningful, if that makes sense. So, see if it'll let me go back. Okay. So the application here, when you're writing, this immediately qualifies people by telling them who you are talking to. This is why it's important, because it sets the stage for you to have a targeted conversation, for you to be able in your emails, in your funnel, whatever that looks like, for them to already say, you're talking to me. So that's the cue, qualify. Understanding, we're showing empathy, we're giving insight. This particular stage, when you're getting ready, you are going to start talking about how you understand the experience that they're having, how you understand the problem that they're having, how you are like, this would be a great place to brainstorm. Are we using our market research to the fullest ability? Because this, as you start to write, you want to show empathy. You want to tell them that it's okay that they are where they are. In some of the emails that I've done and some of the clients I work with, we call these permission emails. It's okay to tell people your life is chaotic. Guess what? Mine too, because automatically now we have something in common. And so this is where we are showing empathy, whatever we're doing. So our funnel, our email, whatever that looks like. And we're also telling them that we understand where they are, what the problem is, and the challenges that they're facing. It's important right here because this is the connection piece. If you can show them that you understand, they're connected to, and they are bought into the problem
Do
and
you
to
have
you
any,
being.
like, what that might look like or sound like in a sentence, just when you're showing empathy or insight?
Yeah, actually, when you do it as a permission email, you're getting them, you're getting them and you're telling them it's okay where they are. So like with Nikki, her stuff is that the permaculture garden. She could say, you don't see yourself as an expert gardener yet, do you? That's okay.
Mm,
That's
mm,
why I'm here. I'm here to guide you and to show you that you really can do this. Or
yeah,
you could say, like, your house is in chaos. Guess what? I have 4 children. My house is always in chaos too. That's why you should hire me as the housekeeper. Like, yeah,
right.
that, so that's how it would work in copy. Even in a sales page, this is a really good place to have like a hook where you could actually get their attention and say, are you tired of, are you tired of always feeling like you're up to your eyeballs in stuff around the house? Because you're
Mm,
like that, you're building that connection because it's like, yes, I am. How did you know? And if
right,
you do
right.
it right and you use the market research correctly, you will actually have people tell you, how are you in my head? How
Yeah.
did how did you know that
That's
that's how
like the
I'm feeling?
best copywriting compliment, really, when you go, "Yeah, that's
It
right
is.
in my head."
And it's
Uh,
so funny because 90% of the time when people ask me that, like, how did you know? I'm like, you told me with the market research. I
yeah,
just used the words that you gave me, and now you feel like you understand the problem. Like you're really my hero or my heroine. You
yeah.
understand what I'm going through. So that's the you. We're understanding. So we've qualified them. We understand where they're coming from, and we are starting to position ourselves as the possible solution for their need. The E, this is our education. This is the providing value. Here we're going to educate them that we might be the solution to their problem. The application here is that you start to, one of the things I always tell my clients if you're doing emails is find a way within the first few emails of your welcome sequence to tell them to do something where they can experience a quick win. Because if they can do what you told them to do within like 30 minutes to a couple of hours, and they experience a win, suddenly you've educated them and you provided value and they had a win. You're the expert. Shut up and take my money is where we typically go from there. Like it is you're 100% validated as the expert when they experience a win. So if you're educating them and giving them value, you are addressing their needs and you're not necessarily asking for money straight up. You're just building this relationship as that you actually care about them and it's not about whatever money, dollar, whatever you're trying to exchange for them. So that's your E. Um, Do you guys have any questions so far?
We're looking good in the chat. If anyone has questions, drop in the chat. And that
Yeah.
educate, like she was saying, that win, it can be anything. It can be that you've gave them an insight. They got that moment to go, oh, that's the step or I haven't thought about, or that tool I was looking for. Or it may be this is the process to use and it's your process. So there's lots of ways that you can do that
There are
education part.
hundreds of ways we
Yes.
can do it. So the S, stimulate. Like I said, I don't love it, but we're creating desire. We're basically showing them through their powerful words, through the brand identity, through the way that you set up your funnel, the way you set up your emails, that they're important and that you are the answer to what their problem is, whatever they identify that problem as. So here is a great place to put stories and use the reader's imaginations. This is where we're going to focus on the benefits over the features. This is where we're going to talk about that social proof. Like, cool, you're right here, but you haven't crossed the bridge yet because there's no bridge. So let me be the bridge to help you get to the other side, to what that transformation looks like, whatever that looks like for you. When you have social proof, again, it just validates you as being the expert, and it shows people that you really can help them actually achieve the thing that you say you can do. You're not just a bro marketer out for money trying to 10x or 100x or whatever, but you actually are invested in their success. And then the T stands for transition. This is where we're guiding them towards action. We're giving them the call to action. We're wrapping up the story that we have taken them on. We're wrapping up the quest we've taken them on. And then a lot of times this is where we put a link. Hey, learn more, go to my blog, be a part of my world, buy the thing, whatever that call to action looks like. This is the final step because you are encouraging them to take action. A lot of times with emails or even funnels, if it's a product or a service, you'll see quick action bonuses. You'll see upsells. If you buy within the next 48 hours, you also get ... because they're trying to get them to push the button. We live in a world right now where everybody's like, push the button, buy the thing, push the button, buy the thing. And you have to figure out how your people are going to do that without you being pushy, because if you get too pushy, that's when you get the unsubscribes. That's when you get the bounces off of your landing pages. But if you step in here and you say, look, I've taken you on a quest. I've shown you here's like we talked about last time. Here's the problem. We agitated the problem a little bit. Now we talked about the solution. Now we take action. And that's the piece that I think a lot of people forget about, because if you don't tell them what to do, they will do nothing.
Yeah,
Because they will be like,
I think a
oh,
lot of us shy away from this because we're in that space of, I don't want to be pushy, right? That's the other side of being a heart-led entrepreneur, is that we're like, well, when they're ready. But the truth is we need to make it clear what the next step is. And this is really this one part, this transition, this T, put a big star by it, because this is what I see left out so many times of wonderful copy. And it's typically left out in the vein of, I want to be respectful, but making it clear what to do next is also respectful. It's like you sat there telling somebody about a treasure, about the treasure map, about how great it is, and then you're like, "Hey, bye." Like, you don't tell them how to start going towards the
yeah,
treasure.
where's
Like,
point A?
where do I start? What's the next step? And so just, if you were to tell your friend about an amazing restaurant, you're not going to tell them about the food and the menu and the service and then forget to tell them how to get there, right? Or like the
Right.
name. That's the thing, right? So this transition part is so powerful. So I don't know if you'll have that recapped, Kelly, but as I'll just kind of recap it here real quick too. So we have the quest, which was that qualify, right? That's the, hey leader, or hey, TV person, or hey, person who needs this type of service, right? You're literally telling them who it is. You're qualifying it. So those of us go, oh, that's me. And those who aren't go, that one's not for me. Perfect. So I'll look the other way. I got other stuff to do. Right. And then we're going to go to understand. So where are you saying, hey, busy, HR person, right? That's the person. You know how tough it is when everyone keeps quitting all the time, right? Now we have some empathy. We're understanding them. Well, guess what? It could be different, right? There's educate. In fact, you're not alone. This many people are quitting all the time, right? Educating. Then we're moving to the stimulate. That isn't there something more exciting that it could be, or like, whoa, give them, we're getting them excited. We're telling them about the good stuff. and then telling them where to get the good stuff. Now, it's probably not the official recap, Kelly, but it's
I mean, that works out perfectly though, but because I didn't necessarily put a recap in, but yeah, you really let them qualify. It will actually increase your sales because
yeah,
not everybody is going to go to your landing page. Not everybody's going to get on your list. If you qualify people and they say, "Oh, peace out, I'm out today," cool. This one's not for you. That's fine.
yeah.
Like maybe the next offer I have is for you. But if you have more people that are actually have self-qualified themselves, you've got the right people looking at your stuff. You've got the right people identifying it as a problem. So they understand that they understand their problem and they also see you as the potential person. Providing value could literally be a statistic. A lot of times in our world, like we were talking about HR, over the long term, it's actually better for you and more cost effective for you to hire somebody who's going to stay in that position for 2 to 3 years. Because if you hire an intern, you're literally going to be teaching them all the ropes every
New
single
people every
3 months.
time. Yeah.
Every 3 months, you're going to go through this again. And that's exhausting for you. That's costing money. That's costing time, all of these things. And then the stimulating and creating desire is literally saying, what does it look like after? What does it look
Mm,
like after we work together?
yeah.
What does it look like? What does my life look like? What does your life look like? How have we made those changes? And maybe they might not be significant, but maybe they are significant in 3 months.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
the
Planting those seeds is really powerful.
yeah,
I was gonna just say one simple version because what I love about the qualifying that you also mentioned again was like, the people who it's not for look the other way. And I think there's those of us who are so afraid to lose somebody that we really try to make the message for everyone. So I just this metaphor came to my head, just this black and white version. So if any of you have been recommended an app and you're like, oh, this app sounds amazing, and you start reading about the app and you get all the way to the bottom to find out that it's only for Android or it's only for Apple. It's really frustrating when it's not the phone you have. And you're like, well, this is really great. I can't use it. And I just wasted all this time
it doesn't
reading
help me at
about
all.
this wonderful tool that's not for me. And I think that is the most simple way to explain why you want to make sure for everyone's goodness that we know who this message is for. Very plain and simple.
Right. And I think the transaction, one thing I was wanting to add to that, when you have the call to action, you kind of have to pivot your mindset, like we talked about mindset already this morning or this afternoon, whatever time it is. This is where we live with 4 children. You have to really kind of think like sales is service. If you have a service and you're selling them, you're not being salesy about it. If you come from a place where you're like, this really will help you, then it's not icky. And it took me a long time to get there because I used to be that person that's like, I don't want to make an ask. It feels gross. I don't love it. Guys, keep in mind, I taught kindergarten and I used to tell people all the time, my people are my kindergartners, but I literally, show up every day and I market to the parents and I market to my coworkers and I market to the principal, and they're not my target is these little ones, but I have to market to the people that are actually going to pay my salary. Like that's
Yes.
how it is. And sometimes it's the same with being an entrepreneur. You have your big goals and you have these lofty things, and you may have to take a step back and say, hey, the pieces are right now I'm having to market to these people. Maybe they're not 100% my ideal person, but they're going to get me to the next step, which will get me where I want to be.
Love it.
So
Love it.
just my thoughts. But
Kelly,
yeah,
can you go back one slide? There was some wording there that was like excellent
maybe
and I lost it. Maybe.
I will
Okay.
try. Because
It's okay.
the Loom thing is trying to make me record that other way. Okay. Are we in too far?
Next, one more.
Okay. I can do that. Maybe. That's where we are, guys. Okay. Creating desire. I love one thing about creating desire is you let people activate their imagination here. What could it be? What could it look like? For so many of us, we were taught what if was a bad thing. And I will be honest, like starting as an entrepreneur, having to completely reteach myself that like, what if this works? What if this works? What if this is amazing? And when you let people have that, like, what does it look like when you're successful? A lot of times you will get some resistance to start with, and then it's like a floodgate that will open. Which is one of the things I love about working with my people, because one of my calls to action a lot of times with my own email list is like hit reply and tell me what you're thinking. And a lot of times I actually do have 2 or 3 people that will do that on a regular basis who will say like, I never thought about this way. Well, what do you think about whatever? And I'm like, yes, especially if you knew it was especially one of these people, you're like, there's no way that you have an imagination. You do. It's amazing. Like, and it's so funny because now she and I are really close. But the first couple times I met her, I was like, are we like, I'm sorry. I spoke out of turn. I'm sorry. Like, and you don't even realize a lot of times because people don't necessarily immediately respond. Usually when you get people to say yes, the marketing funnel has kind of done its thing and they've seen you 7 to 14 times or more, and they are ready to take action. You always give them an opportunity to take action, but a lot of times people have to say like, oh, she's talking to me. Is she talking to me? Maybe she's talking to me. I think she's talking to me. Tell me more. Oh, that was interesting. I agree with that, but I don't agree with that. Cool. Tell me more. And it's one of the reasons that email and sometimes even your funnels can be longer term games, is because people have to see it over and over again, because people will tell you, oh, I can't buy it. It's too expensive. It's never about money, because if they want it, they will find a way to get the money 100% of the time. One of the things that they always say is when you really focus on the benefits, people will actually use the features to justify being able to buy it. If they love it and they want it, they will be like, but look at all the features I get. Look at all the things I get from working with this person, because they've suddenly decided and they can see themselves being successful. You've given them the permission and now they've decided they're ready to take that first step. I don't know where I was going with this tangent, but there I am.
All right, the power we have in all of these. And we'll have slides if anyone needs to catch more stuff, we'll have the slides in the group after as well.
Yeah.
So I know we are going to go through some of the copy that was submitted today, so you guys can see in real time what that's like to be working on a project and what the differences are of what might be tweaked or looked at differently when we're writing for desire, when we're writing for interest, when we're writing for action. And I think that's a lot of what this quest part, this framework that she gave you to play with, is that a lot of us think of writing as, this novel we're going to put together, but it's not information. Unfortunately, a lot of people's websites are encyclopedias of information, and that's not what anyone signed up for, right? This is really about movement. This is about helping them move towards decisions. That's why the education is so important. Gone are the days of interruptive marketing that just yell, buy my thing. Like, believe it or not, there was a time that that's kind of all you needed, was if you added more signs than the other guy, you'd be okay. But that's not what it is now. So now we are stepping into how to learn these nuances of messaging and how do we show up to actually make it clear what we really want. Because again, another thing in content marketing, we can get lost with like, well, I serve, and nothing happens. Well, it's usually because we never asked, and those little things that we're missing. So that's the difference. So I know, yeah, so go ahead, Kelly. You can change anytime. I was just
Yeah, 100% of the time. I actually shared this one because some of the copy that was actually, it completely aligns with kind of what you were just saying. Nobody wants a novel. Love you dearly. But if your emails are, I was actually did some research on it. The standard email should be around 150 to 500 words, because our brains are wired for scannability. Our brains are wired for scannability because they're trying to take information in from all sources all of the time. And right now we live in a world where we're getting around 10,000 marketing messages a day. So our brain is going to just ignore 99% of it. That said, nobody wants to read a novel or, an encyclopedia unless they're just bored out of their mind. And that's not what you don't want your emails to kind of land in that space. So the first copy clinic that we had to submission was from Nikki. Her goal is to help families grow their own food, medicine, and find God in the garden. The first bit I put in here was to be sent April 4th. It's a very long email. Then one of my spots is, I was actually, the highlighter supposed to be, this is a value add email. So the point of this is that we're adding that value. We're starting to build those connections. So the goal is to let people know more about her Sage campaign that's coming up, to build the connections, to give them value, and to give them an easy win, is basically what I got out of her emails. So let's look at it. The very beginning says, hey, subscriber, one of the things that I do besides teaching permaculture and growing food is I do compost tea research. let me stop right there and say anything that I say with love. Take it for what you want to take it for. You know, I'm not here to like every little line. That's not why we're here. We're here to grow and to learn. And so don't get upset with what I tell you. Just take it for what you want to take it for.
No, we're here to be challenged and we're here to grow, and that means receiving feedback. So it's brave, and we're here to take it. So I love it. Let's
And
hear the
so,
news.
yeah. So overall, when I looked at this email, and we can pull it up aside if you'd like, the email is 7 pages. For me, my first thought was that is a huge email. There's so much that can be done here. And as I went through it, it's actually could be multiple emails. It's got fantastic content in it. It's just really, really long. And so she's talking here about her compost tea research, which is great. The second thought I had was, what's in it for your people? Because a lot of times when you're writing, they love to hear your stories, but you have to kind of come from the angle of what's in it for them. Why are you doing this research? Because you're doing it to teach them eventually. Like that's the whole goal. But the compost tea research here could be its own email. Hey, I'm doing this research and here's why. Because she's talking about compost tea. She's talking about how that is super beneficial for the soil, how we're going to keep out the bad things and keep in the good things. The other thing as we go more into it is it's a lot of words. It's a lot of words. And so it's talking about how it really works. Like I said, all of that I would have as one email. One email. This is compost tea research. Here's what it means for you. And here's why I'm doing it. Because she's talking about getting a grant, growing, and the questions that she's trying to answer. I might even take that a step further in one email and say, how this works for you is that when we have this research done, then I'm going to be able to, with the Sage kickoff, this is how it's going to pertain. This is how it's going to benefit you because you're taking it a step further. Yes, the research is amazing. Yes, the research is awesome, what you're finding out. And in an email like this, we really want to make sure what's in it for them. So why is it important that you're sharing this story, if that makes sense?
Like, so kind of you're going like, why should I be excited about compost tea? Like compost tea could be exciting and it could connect to me or something I care about. But right off the bat, if I'm not familiar with it, I don't know that. Let's assume her audience may be familiar with it, but just because we're familiar doesn't mean we're invested in it, right? So where are we connecting in that information? And then the length of it, depending on what our cycle is and what your kind of rhythm is, these are the types of things that you can really have fun with and actually go, hey, in my next email, we'll talk about this part of it. And then you kind of have a little series, which
yeah, because
also
you can
this
talk
goes,
about.
yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
No, I was gonna
I'm
say, well, you could talk about it for weeks at a time, but you're also buying yourself time for your work. Like you don't have to do so much. That's the
right.
thing. You don't have to do so much.
Work smarter, not harder. And on this
Yeah.
particular thing, you could say like, here's compost tea. Next time we're going to talk about what it has to do with growing food. That segues beautifully into, hey, stay tuned. Or, hit reply and tell me what you know about compost tea, because now it's become market research if you do that. The call to action is, do you know anything or do you not? Because that could potentially drive further emails if they want to know more about it, or they're like, we know everything about compost tea. We don't need to know anymore.
Yeah. I
Segueing
was
though.
going to connect this real quick to some of those here. I'm looking at Tracy here and Liz and Alexandra. And so as you guys are moving into marketing and the spaces and different audiences you'll be marketing to, all of you, as I'm looking at you, I know you have different audiences. Tracy has people who would be working with her on an investment level or a sponsorship level, while other people would be consumers. They would be people who are watching the content that she's putting out and those things. So those are two different audiences that she needs to get excited about stuff and make what she's doing relevant to what's in it for them. So if we're at an event, then we always say, we're here doing new research to find out how to get you the best deals or whatever that might be, to go, why should I care that you're there? Then we can learn to connect it, right? And same with Liz Raleigh here. We talked about this a lot with your different audiences to go, why do I care about my loved ones? Am I the loved one that I need to care about my own self right now? And then to go, how do these pieces that you're talking about, maybe safety in the home, relate to me as someone in the home, or relate to me as someone who cares about someone who may be Home Alone, and just recognizing those kind of those angles that we get to pick and making sure that the information connects to what they're interested in. Alexandra, I know we've talked about your stuff too. But you know, again, very similar, just connecting that to what it is, and realizing that you can spread it out.
Well, and even being able to segment your stuff, you can send the exact same emails with just a couple of tweaks if you're sending to different segments for like you talked about, consumers versus corporate. It can be the bulk of the same work. This is all about working smarter, not harder, and being intentional with what you're sending, because you don't need to have, like, this is beautiful. It's beautiful the way that it's written and the way that it's grown. It's just too long for a one single email. So like I said, the next email would be, so what does it have to do with growing food? I go back to, hey, subscriber, I love the graphic. It's very easy to understand because we as humans are wired for graphics. Like, words are good. We like our words, but graphics make a picture's worth 1,000 words, 100%. And then it's talking about like what good soil is made out of. I might go a step further with this and make bullet points, because again, our brains are wired for scannability. And if we can make it easy and super scannable, that's going to really help the readability. It's going to help your click-through rate, because our brains do not like big paragraphs unless we're reading a book or an ebook, because we're busy people and we want to be able to get this information. It's great information. How do we make it so that it's easier to digest in terms of our brain trying to do it? The other great thing about going in and adding the bullet points is that it makes this email super searchable. So when you go back and they're like, Nikki had an email about soil, let me just stick that in the Gmail and Google it. It will pop up. It will pop up actually better if it's on bullet points than it will being where the algorithm has to dig for it, if that makes sense. So that's what I would do.
Really helpful. And bullet points
then-
are just great to break up that information when we have a lot of information to share, or you have a lot of steps to share. It's just really so much easier for us to consume.
Mhm. Yeah. And then what I would actually do, she's talking about, hey, if you've never gotten started before, here are three things that you can compost easily. And here's why. This is really well put together. It's easy to digest. I love that the bullet points are put up. The one thing I will say is if you're going to send a bigger email like this, the bold and the italic and all of that makes it easier for your people to consume it. The other thing is you might not actually need all of this information. You could actually do a much shorter email where you say, here are 3 things that you should start with your composting. And if you want to know more, check out the blog, because this thing is actually written as a blog, whereas you could easily get 5 to 7 emails out of it, where you're just giving them a little bit at a time. You don't need to turn on the whole fire hose, just a little bit, like a glass of water, as opposed to the whole fire
hose. You could even play with something where you have the whole, like you're in your email, you're sharing it over a course of 7 emails or something, because this is quite long. But you could reference several times, read the whole thing here, read the whole thing here. And anyone who's in midway, like, you know what, let me go back and read the whole thing, like, all for you, buddy. But for the rest of us who just, especially those of us who in your messaging, in your target, you work with busy people. So these busy people may need all of this information, but they just can't get it at once.
You need a drop or 2 at a time.
Right. And any of you have done this where you've gone to watch a YouTube video, or this is my world, but a YouTube video, and you're like, oh, this 10-minute one. Okay, I can't watch that one. That one's an hour, but this 10-minute one I can watch. And then that next 10-minute, and then the next 10-minute, and then 60 minutes later, you watch 6 10-minute videos because you couldn't watch the 60-minute one. But it's really about just giving your readers that as well. For email form, there's plenty of areas in your life where you'll be writing blogs and longer content should you desire, but just recognizing that these are some helpful best practices, especially when you're looking at something this in depth of information.
Right, which is, as I said, it makes it a beautiful blog, which would be a great thing to go back and reference. But there are so many little sections here that are just gold nuggets where it would be a perfect little email. Hey, if you've never composted before, try with these 3 things. And here are the 3 steps to get started. You want to know more, go back to the blog. Go back to the blog and find out why we're doing this. What is the trick here? Why should we do more? Why do you care? And then, as I said, the 3rd thing was coffee grounds. All of it is gorgeous as you put it through together. She did ask about SEO. So I ran it through an SEO generator. They do have these online. Just be aware that some of them you can pay very lots of money for, and some of them will let you do it for free. So the SEO that it pulled out that it really liked was good soil, essential nutrient. All of that is going to be super important on the blog. SEO is not as important on an email. It's still important. And that's why I said, if you're going to use a blog, I love the idea of repurposing it into your emails because it makes it really easy. And we as busy entrepreneurs know we work smarter, not harder. So these are
Yes.
definitely things to do. And then suggested SEO, small amounts. People are looking for plant roots, soil particles. Those are actually the things that are being searched right now. So adding some of those words is going to actually increase your SEO. And then I would even go a step further with Kristen when she was talking about the other SEO, the new SEO that's coming, and maybe see if we can find a way to put some of those keywords in, just so that as the AI is generating it, it's going to push it even higher up into the search field, if that makes
Yeah,
sense.
we'll keep our eye out on that for sure. And if SEO is like brand new to anybody, it's really just how you're found. Search engine optimization just means when people are searching, will they find your article about good soil or someone else's article about good soil? And that will depend on how much you focused on SEO. For some people, and actually Nikki's a great example, her business marketing is really highly centered around SEO. So this is a very important component. It's valuable for all of us. It's not a necessity for everyone in every stage of their business. So if you're not there, don't freak out. It's okay. It may be something that you're about to need to step into, or maybe it's not needed yet, but it is something to familiarize yourself with.
And a lot of times when you do your market research, if you're listening to what your ideal audience is telling you, they're giving you quite a bit of the SEO that they're actually searching for. So it doesn't have to be this huge, complicated, drawn out thing. It can be little short, sweet, hey, I'm going to add an extra word here, see if this performs better over this period of time. That's literally what we're doing when we're looking at the search engine optimization, is we're just trying to help Google find us. So,
Yeah.
So the other person who put a copy submission in was Alexandra, and her target is to create intrigue for executives and HR teams so that they will book a call and possibly hire her. So these are out of order. I know. I just wanted pretty pictures, and these were the prettiest ones. So
That's great. And Alexandra is here just in case you need any interaction.
yeah, you're fine. So this is a brochure. The whole point of the brochure, our intent here is to create intrigue. So we want people to be intentional, and that's what she's trying to do here. This is the first cover of it. I actually love it. I would maybe suggest that we add some space between our sentences because it looks really tight. And my first impression was, oh, this is very, very serious, very uptight, very like, there is no fun here. We are very professional. So I
So
would
do you
maybe
mean the actual line spacing?
the line spacing between it,
Yeah,
especially
okay,
the
so
second paragraph.
design.
The first one doesn't look terrible. The second one looks a little
Second one's a
squished.
little smushed. Got it. Yeah. So a little
Well,
line
so
spacing there.
that would what I say. Overall, the information in here is amazing, but you're going to hear me. Typically the very first things that I hit on every single time is it's a spacing issue or like huge blocks of text. If you're wanting people to book a call, we have to make this information as easy to digest and flip through as possible, because right now you have 7 pages. Honestly, if you made bullet points and it was 10 pages long, it might actually be better if they can consume it faster, if that makes sense. We're trying to make this so they're not having to like, it feels like you're trudging when you're going through big paragraphs. And we want them to be able to get that information very quickly and decide that you are the person that they want to book a call with, if that makes sense. So a lot of the information itself is fantastic information, but like when you're talking about, guiding your transformation, you could say whether you're scaled up transitioning from the energetic chaos of a startup to structured growth, I'm trying to pull this out as I go. Here are 3 transformations you could see. Boom, 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 by working with me, because you're making it easy for them to find this information. Because right now it feels very heavy. And the more space we can add into this and the more bullet points we can add into this, it's going to make it feel a lot lighter. It's going to make it feel a lot easier. And it's also going to give more of a like, hey, I really want to work with her. Because right now I feel like, oh man, if I book a call with her, I better be dressed to the nines in my business suit and ready to go because we are not
They might
playing.
need to be with Alexandra, who's her
To a
demographic,
certain-
but
Yeah,
I
with her
do
HR
see
to a
like,
certain extent.
yeah, like we have there's a lot of information. So even though it's actually really important, and I think this is a very powerful key for us all to take in right now, is that there's two parts of this, right? Like what you write is incredibly important. Yes. But the online world, how it also is read, how we come across it is also going to be very important. So if something feels hard to read or like there's a lot there, even if it's really powerful, can be the difference between whether somebody actually reads it or not. And so playing around with both pieces, both understanding readability in terms of the visual aspect of it, and then readability in terms of what you wrote are two areas that you probably never signed up for. You're like, this is not what I was trying to do, right? You're like, but this is the voice. Now it's this, I'm telling y'all, right? There's another option. The other option is every potential prospect you have, you need to go door to door and talk to them individually. Okay. And unless you're able to do that, which is not where we're at in this space, this is your online voice. This is the tie. This is how, whatever way you want to show up, it may be literally the way that your words are laid out across the screen. It might be where they're bullet printed or whether there's space or whether it's,
They're
too
bold
wordy
or
or yeah,
italic or
or this is
whatever.
bold or 5 different fonts are on there. All of these little things matter and it's tough. It is tough. And so again, for Nikki and Alexandra, even being willing to come up here and put this stuff there, it's tough because trying to get your message alone is just like, oh, can I get the right words? I know what I'm wanting to say. And sometimes we say it beautifully and it doesn't land with the other reader. And it's like being in this relationship that you're like, man, I love you, but I could kill you.
You're
Like,
right. Right.
you know?
And there's a
And,
dichotomy there too,
and
where
that's like,
if you
yeah, go
I
ahead.
was just gonna say, if you have the ability to do, if you want to keep it like this, which is fine, if that's what your choice is, I would say it almost needs to be paired with like, if you did a video once a week or once a month or whatever, so they could see you and hear you and be able to like, oh, okay, like maybe I didn't read the entire brochure, but maybe I read part of it. And now I see Alexandra going and talking about different sections of this. Now I'm making those connections. Now I'm
Mhm.
seeing that as a book a call. Because a lot of times, like you said, and I do have a design background, but it has to be pretty or people won't look at it. And it has to be readable. Or I mean, you could have the absolute perfect words, but if people feel overwhelmed by it, they're gonna go, yeah, no. Cliff Notes version, if that's still a thing. Cliff Notes version, like, yeah, tell me, just I'll book a call with you just so I don't have to read it. Like I've had the gambit of things. So yeah, and I know that you just said that your demographics are very business people, which is great, but you have to ask yourself, if you stepped into the world, if you were your client, would you take the time to read this all?
Yeah, or any way to facilitate that scannability, I
Yeah.
think, and that's
Yeah.
the
The,
thing is
this
some
is
people you
yes,
might
and
go ahead.
and then
But
yeah, I just to build on this, I'm totally hearing you. This brochure itself is not aimed at like the end user. This is like the educational brochure for the people who are representing me. It's almost like me educating them what to talk about,
Ah,
what to say, which way to say it when they are, selling my services. So that's what it's there for, and they can then send it as a follow-up. But I'm totally hearing you on the structure and the and there is still a less is more opportunity with
yeah.
what's there. So
yeah.
I'm hearing you on that. Thank you.
Yeah, and I love that you were able to clarify that it's not necessarily like this is not the piece that is necessarily the end facing piece. This is like our middle person who is going to be your connector essentially.
Yeah.
Which is great. And it is great for them to have more information to know how to answer what if questions, or hey, I have a question about possibly working with Alexandra. You're her guide, or you're her go-to person. Can you answer this question for me without you having to go and say like, oh, let me get back to you within 2 days. So there is a potential here where you could even add a Q&A section so that they know how to answer for you, if that makes sense. So they know how to say like, oh, you want to work with her? Cool. These are the common questions that come up over and over again, but I can answer that right now.
Yeah, I love it. But it's incredibly helpful to understand, and this is for everybody, what exactly the purpose of your written piece is. Because again, if we go in with just what writing is good or what makes sense, there's a lot of stuff that just sounds beautiful. And I just mean this for all of us. And we go, what this email sounds great. Okay, but what's the purpose of this email? Who's this email really for? And so the fact that Alexandra knows clearly who that is already an advantage as to how it's going to be written. And so that knowledge is just so helpful.
Yeah, 100%. So that, like, overall, there's a couple more pages of it. Same kind of thing though. I think less is more. Some of it you might, like I said, be able to wrap into a Q&A to make it really easy for them to not have to dig if they're talking to potential clients for you. So that would be, this page actually is set up beautifully. Only thing I might do if it was me is maybe break up, add a little bit of space between like 1 or 2 sentences, add a little bit of space again for the readability piece, because as it's set up, it's pretty to look at. I just get a little overwhelmed by the big paragraphs. And so maybe there's an opportunity there to either do bullet points or just break it up just a little bit, if that makes sense. That would be what I would suggest. I
But
love
it
how
is,
you,
yeah, it is nice though. I do like the 4 boxes and all that. Just again, seeing kind of how we're breaking it down. If I didn't read all the detail, I'm going to get the core 4 things that organizations get wrong, right? Mistaking adoption of new methodologies or technologies, old mindsets, overlooking organizational culture, no vision, no alignment. Those are the 4 things I would scan for. And then maybe I'll take a sentence or 2 of the rest. But this gives me the gist when I'm trying to get an idea of what this lady's about, what she's doing, right? And that's what we talk about, is we hope everyone reads everything, but we do write for the scanners as well.
right. Same kind of thing here. I love that you have the graphics. The graphics are simple. The graphics are very professionally done. Same kind of thing. If there's 1 or 2 things here that you could bullet point or underline, just helps your scanner people, because we live in a world with just so much information. And it also might actually help if you had a couple of underlined sentences. That's going to be the go-to thing when your people are potentially selling for you. Makes it easy for them to find it. And then I love this particular page. It's just beautiful the way that it is written. The graphic was great. Even spacing wise, this particular page feels so much lighter than all the other pages. And it's because of the way that you've done your paragraphs a little bit differently, and you've added a tiny bit of space, and it matters. And I also love this bit of social proof. The only thing I might do just a hair differently is I might put a light box underneath the social proof to just kind of highlight it without highlighting it. Like, yes, it's bold. You have other things that are bold. So by giving it a little bit of a background or a little box or something, you're bringing the attention to it without like slapping people upside the head with it. So that would be what I would say there.
Those are the little design hacks that you get, that just give it the extra edge.
Yeah. Again, same kind of thing. These I would make a little bit more readable. See if we can find that sentence or 2 ideally, but like same stuff throughout the whole thing. Overall though, it's really well done. This is actually my favorite page because it is so dynamic, especially against what you currently have. And you've got a picture, you've got an easy way to get a hold of you, you've got all of the things, and you've even got a really easy about me. The only caveat here is make that about you about them. It sounds really counterintuitive because it's about you. But you need to, how can you help them? So talk about you and how you're the answer for them, if that makes sense.
So
That
you
would
kind
be
of
the
play
only
with that, like redefining the consultancy landscape. You
to
have
help
a
you.
few, like even there's this like thing we play with, even though it's going to sound really weird in copywriting, and it's anywhere where you say I or me or we, change to you, even though it might not make sense. So if we were playing with this, it'd be like redefining the consultancy landscape. You offer a fresh, dynamic approach to corporate transformation. Your consulting isn't just about strategies, it's about stories and a deep dive into what makes organizations tick. You bring a mosaic of experiences to the table, crafting bespoke. Now you can see where it sounds a little weird, but you can start to notice also where, the consulting you'll receive isn't just about strategies, it's about stories, right? You will be, now again, I'm not talking about for beautiful writing, right? But you get to have a mosaic of experiences, because that's what she's bringing, right? Alexandra's bringing it, but it also means she has it. Yeah.
Yeah, well, when it says like she brings mosaic, I might even change that to let me help you create a mosaic of experiences and harness those experiences within your group, like something to that, like let me help you do these things. Let me help you create
So all
that.
the same stuff that you do, it's just about how you do it for them, right? It's like just
Right.
that little flip that everything there is actually accurate. So it's not where we just shift and go like, well, you want to do this. Like it's about you, but in your about you, it's how all your awesomeness is going to help them, right?
Right,
That's
how you are the
that's
answer for them, essentially.
Yeah.
That is, hopefully that helps you. I know I kind of beat a horse to death a little bit, but that is my take on that. Like overall, it's beautiful. It's a little wordy, like simplicity. I might add the Q&A section before this, but I like the let's work it together. And then if you can flip the about me to how you are going to be a badass for them, like it just makes it an easy yes. And so hopefully you found that helpful. And thank you for being brave and letting me have my 2 cents to go at this. Because usually I don't
Yeah,
always get to. For you, I did a little bit of keyword stuff. Not that it super matters because of who your audience is, but these were the things that people are researching right now. And these are the pings. The I stands for individual, the C stands for corporate. So if you are putting this in a place where people are going to go and really try to SEO it, if you're putting it out in the world, I might focus on the corporate stuff because that's ideally who your ideal audience is. But yeah, that would be my thought on that. So. All right, we have a little bit of time left. So before we start the next thing, let me make sure we are okay. Do you guys have any comments, questions, anything that you want to talk about?
I have a
Totally.
question. I have a question. So I missed the memo as usual about getting things in by Friday. I have a very, very short piece that I would love to rewrite. It's about, let's see, whoops. It's
Can you
now,
drop it into the chat or is it too big?
uh, let me see if I can drop it into the chat.
Got a real-time submission here, Kelly.
all good.
All right,
Go off
this
the
is
top of
not,
your noggin.
I was gonna say, I understand that I'm asking a lot, and I get,
I think it's okay, right? We have a small group today, Kelly. I think we'd be okay.
Oh yeah, it's fine. This actually happens a lot when I talk to friends of mine. They're like, hey, by the way, here's what
Right.
I think.
There in
Can
the
you look
it's
at this
there
for
in the
me?
chat, Kelly.
Give me just a second to see if I can pull it up. No? Okay. Oh, okay.
I don't know if you'll do it if you do a screen share from there, maybe, or if that will work.
I mean, right, if you can enable me to share, I'll put it, I'll share my screen with you, that,
No
Give me just
worries,
a second.
Alexandra. I know bedtime's calling. All right, see you
Yeah,
later.
no worries. Thank you. All right. Yeah, if you want to pull it up and share it, then I will definitely give you my take on it.
okay, can you see that?
Oh yeah, well, too big. Okay.
Right, so this was a proposal from a designer for an ad. The problem is I need the ad elsewhere. And what I'm interested in is this little bit of verbiage. So I support seniors to remain at home as long as possible. One of the challenges is that sometimes I'm appealing to an 85-year-old and sometimes I'm appealing to their 65-year-old child.
Yeah.
And I know this needs to be more dynamic. I think there's another version of this, but I can't find it. So
I actually, and this is just my thought because I can kind of see it. It's a little fuzzy, but
Oh, you know what? I can see it better in the attachment. Is it the "We are here for you, we fit your
yeah.
style"?
yeah,
Whether you are a senior
to
who
you.
needs a little support to remain independent and maintain your lifestyle, or you are concerned about your older loved ones living alone, our services are entirely personalized and flexible.
So what I would do,
Mhm.
we are here for you is not the best hook in the world.
Right,
Like,
right.
yes, we're here for you, but it doesn't really identify. So my hook would actually either be, depending on who you're doing it, stay in your own home as you age, or something like keep mom and dad at home as long as possible.
Something
because
really specific about who it's for, because that
right,
is the
so
real
you want
part
their
that
attention.
stands out.
Mhm.
Yeah, is you want their attention and you want them to stop and go, what? Wait, hey,
Right.
yeah, how did you know that my aging parent, I want them to stay home? Because then even the like we fit your style, that feels really
Yep.
disconnected. But
Right.
if you said like stay in your own home as long as possible, whether you're trying to keep mom and dad at home or you want to stay in your home you've had for 50 years,
Right.
we're here for you. That's where I would put that. We're here for
Okay.
you. To learn more about this, then at that point I might say like scan the code or to learn more or to book a call or whatever. But you can do this. The way that I was taught to do this is like hook story offer. So your hook, you want their attention. How do you get them to stop? I mean, at the end of the day, what are we doing? How do we get them to stop? Your story could be stay in your home of 50 years that your kids grew up in, or keep your mom and dad at home as long as possible so they can enjoy their
Enjoy
retirement.
life, and your home on your terms,
Right.
right?
Perfect.
Yes, like that. And then we're here because the truth is as they're walking around the grocery store, they're not going, gosh, I really wish someone was here for me. That's not the first concern, right? The first concern is that either the home or the support, right, Liz? So knowing that your business is also helping the difficulties of maybe getting tasks and chores done. It may be either the staying in the home or it may be the actual type of support that you give,
Or like,
but
yeah,
that's
get
the
support
hook.
for mom and dad.
Yeah.
It depends on where you want to go with that. You actually have the ability to do several very targeted because you have essentially two different clients. You have the clients that are like, I had every kid in this house. We were married for 50 years in this house. I'm not leaving this house. And then you have the kid who's like, I want to support mom and dad to whatever they want their golden years to look like and not be in
Mm,
a home. Like, how do we hire someone that's going to come and make sure that the meals are done and that the lighthouse work is done and that they're okay and still able to move around the house? So ideally, you have two very different uh, ideal clients with the same goal.
yeah. And this
Which is
is
to keep
recording, Liz, so you come back to this part, all those ideas and pain points that we just talked about, because I think there's probably about 5 or 6 hooks in there for you. I think moving forward, all of those pieces of that, because the rest is like you said, is the we're here for you and we'll fit your style and what you like. Like all that's important, but it's not the top thing that matters yet until they know what their concern is.
Yeah. And I mean, your call to action could be discover more or, book a call to talk about how we help our parents as they age. There are lots of different ways that you could take the call to action too. It kind of depends on what you're actually wanting to do with it. Again, this
Yeah.
is about that intentionality piece
Your
Right.
golden years, safe and sound in your home
on your terms
on your terms. Call
because
today.
the boomers are very much on their terms. Like,
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Is that helpful, Liz? I know we threw a lot of
Yeah.
stuff at you right now.
No, it's great. It's great.
Okay. Okay.
perfect.
Awesome.
Then I will go back
Terrific.
to
And thank you for being willing to do this.
no
No
problem. As I
worries.
said, it happens a lot.
That's what it's here for. This is the kind of support to get you help. So I think you have a little thing left, Kelly,
do
little
have-
exercise, and then we can, I
I
mean,
do have a
whatever's up for you.
Yeah, you're
This
fine. I
is our
have
group.
a framework to share, and then we can do whatever with the time we have left. So this is a framework that I created. It's kind of like the Quest framework. This is going to help you think through what you're writing. And it's actually super easy. It's called the Write framework. So how do we create copy, emails, funnels, whatever, so that they actually get people's attention and begin to convert?
I
That's
still
the whole.
have Liz's screen up. There we go. Okay.
There you go. Sorry.
Perfect.
Can you see it now? So we'll
Yeah,
go over
yeah.
that. So like I said, this is about creating copy. How do we create copy that is funnels, emails, whatever you're creating on the marketing side? We're not just writing to write, so that they will actually convert. And the way we do that is we write, WRITE. So the very first one is words. what words are we using? We're going to talk about each of these a little bit more in depth, but words, relationships.
Real quick, Kelly, you might want to keep an eye out for Liz because I think she accidentally kicked herself out. So I don't
Okay,
know
I
if
was
she'll
gonna
be
say,
coming back in, but just keep
you're
an eye
fine.
out.
I
But
was
we'll
like, is
wrap
it,
up here with right.
you're fine. I was like, is it just us? Whatever. It's fine. Um,
That's what replays
I
are
is
for.
the I is intentional, the T is testimonials and social proof, and the E is exceeding expectations and creating experiences. That's what we're trying to do with what we write. Anything that we write that's for business. So the words are good. The right words are better. So how do we get the right words? Words that are going to build up your community. We're going to do that with our market research. I found this quote and I absolutely love it. It's by Mark Twain. It's the difference between the right word and the almost right word is the difference between lightning and a lightning bug by Mark
Ah,
Twain. So it does matter. The right words are important.
yeah.
Relationships, like we talked about, the average person sees 10,000 ads per day. So how are we going to stand out in business? We have to build relationships, which takes time. They used to be that the average person had to interact with you a minimum of 7 times. The last time I looked, the rule of 7 is still there, but they're saying that it's upwards of 21 times now where they have to
I
interact.
think last I saw was 14 and now it's gone up. So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised 21 because now we're so used to so many impressions that now it takes more for that to really
Mhm.
stay in our mind because now we're
Because
used to
again,
some more
our brain just
messages.
goes, nope, that's an ad. We don't need to see that. And there is
Mhm.
actually research that says even if they just see your picture and nothing with it, they actually will, after a certain number of times, begin to be like, oh, that person's trustworthy because I see them everywhere.
Yes,
Which
yes.
is just
We just talked
crazy.
about this in our ads. I'm sorry if anyone's writing that. We just in our ad thing. We talked about a version of advertising that's not asking for anything. It's just showing up, and how that alone can create this idea that, oh, this person must be like someone who I
They're
should
super
know.
successful
Yeah,
because
because
I
they're
see them
around all the
everywhere.
time.
It's like when
Hmm.
you buy that car and you're like, I'm going to buy the pink car because nobody has a pink car. And then you go to the store and you're like, everybody has a pink car.
Everyone has it.
Now created that file folder in your brain, and now your brain is like, oh, okay, well, pink card was a bad idea, but whatever, it's fine. So we're building relationships. The I, intentional, like we talked about a lot today. What is the purpose of your email? What is the purpose of the copy? We don't just write to write. How are we building that know, like, and trust? How are we using it to promote our business? How are we using those words, that market research, to be intentional about what we're trying to do? And like we talked about this morning, having that vision, we begin with the in mind, and we're going to reverse engineer it backwards.
Love
And
it.
then the T is testimonials and social proof because they automatically legitimize you as a business owner. They tell the stories of the people that you've worked with, because if you tell their stories, you make them the hero or the heroine, then people that you talk to automatically are like, hey, if Emily can do it, I can do it. And they start to put themselves in the social proof shoes, and then they start to really want to work with you. Sprinkling the testimonials in, having the social proof helps to legitimize you, and it helps you focus and you focus on the transformations, because at the end of the day, we're telling people, what if this works? What if this works? What if working with me actually helps you be more successful?
Yes.
And so
And then
having all of
people
that,
who are worried that they don't have testimonials and stuff, I always tell them, like, there's things you've overcome. You may have tested out yourself. You may have had a friend that did it with you. And so, no, you may not say my client, but you'll say, hey, I worked with somebody once and this is what we did. And they loved it or whatever. So there's going to be an
and those are
experience that
testimonials.
you can still share.
Yeah, that is I mean, that is actually, I was recently a part of a thing that was talking about like how we go in and talk and tell stories. And it was talking about how, like, you don't have testimonials, but you can do like bad cop, good cop with your friend. Like, I did this and she did that, and here were the results for both of us. Or you can come in
Yes.
and say like, I don't have any results yet, so we're going to do this together, and I'm going to post the results or send you the emails out, and we're going to learn together. And it functions the same way as testimonials do from other
It
people.
shows that you know what you're talking about because you're the one actually out there doing it. So
Yeah,
yeah,
100% of the time.
there's ways to make it work.
Exactly. And then, like I said, the E is exceed expectations and create experiences. How do we put a bow on it? We're not trying to over deliver. We're trying to make sure that we've gone a little above and beyond, and we're trying to find the balance of like, we're doing for you. We're making sure that you feel important, that we're making sure that you feel at the end of the day that we were not just successful, but we were successful and a little more successful. And the way to do this is think about a time that you created an experience, or that someone else created an experience for you. And it can be anything. The one thing that comes to mind is years ago in college, my husband and I, he was not my husband then, he was my boyfriend. We went to a Pizza Hut and had lunch. We were the only ones there. The restaurant like made the food fresh for us. The waitress came and sat out at the table. She gave us her name. We sat and talked for like 2 hours. It was like I had a new best friend. And I mean, then she was like, oh, I tipped the drinks, I tipped the whatever. Like, we're buds now. Come visit me again. And we still talk about the Pizza Hut experience that was 25 years ago. Like, remember about the time of Pizza Hut? Yeah, that Pizza Hut doesn't exist anymore, but that was amazing.
Right,
so
it
how
was
do
the
we do that?
experience, not even the Pizza Hut, right? It was that experience that's so memorable. It's so powerful.
And so think about how can we do that for our clients? How can we make it about them so that when someone says like, oh, hey, I need a copywriter, cool, go talk to Kelly. How do you make it so that you become the person that is that top of mind? Hey, I need somebody that, does HR. Oh, go talk to Alexandra. Or who do I know who does gardening? Oh, it's Nikki. Like Nikki's our gardener. And the more you talk about it and the more you can create those experiences and then use those stories to tell other people's stories, the more you're exceeding the expectations and you're creating something that's meaningful and memorable and something that other people are going to want to be a part of. And
Yeah,
so
I love
that's
it.
literally what I have today. And then the last part
Oh,
is
and
if they
that's
want
it. Okay, that's the right. Oh, I love that. So keep an eye on that. And yes, connect with Kelly. We got Instagram, we got Facebook, and we got email. And we'll push her later maybe to get on LinkedIn, but not yet.
we are on
Eventually.
LinkedIn, but it's a little janky because I had it apparently when I was still a teacher. And sometimes it's a little like, what is
I
in my
know.
face? We don't even
No
know.
worries, no worries. I love it. Okay. Well, thank you so much, everyone. Hope you enjoyed the replay. Post out what you found in the group and make sure to connect with Kelly. And with that, we will say bye.